I sat in the cramped, dimly lit briefing room, surrounded by a mishmash of alien diplomats and military personnel. The air was thick with tension and the faint aroma of alien spices. Or was it body odor? Hard to tell. "All right, folks," I began, raising my voice to cut through the murmur of conversations. "We've got a serious problem on our hands." A ripple of discomfort passed through the room. I locked eyes with Kly'va, my Varlix counterpart. Her skin shimmered in a way that suggested she was as nervous as I was. "The Drak'vok," I continued, pointing to a hologram of a monstrous insectoid species. "They're not here for a friendly visit. They've already taken down 3 of our outposts, and they show no signs of stopping." "Typical humans," grumbled an alien delegate with tentacles for arms. "Always bringing trouble." I ignored the comment. "We need to work together if we're going to stand a chance. This isn't just humanity's fight. It's all of ours." Kly'va stood up, her multifaceted eyes scanning the room. "Reed is right," she said, her voice like chimes. "The Drak'vok threaten us all. We must unite, or we will fall, one by one." There was a heavy silence, then grudging nods all around. Unity, at last. Now we just had to figure out how to actually work together without killing each other first. The training grounds were a chaotic blend of species, each with their own unique way of preparing for battle. I watched as a group of human soldiers tried to coordinate with a team of Kly'va warriors, who seemed to communicate entirely through aggressive hissing. "All right, everyone, listen up!" I shouted, clapping my hands for attention. "We're going to do a simple exercise. Capture the flag, humans versus Varlix." Kly'va raised an eyebrow. "Capture the flag? How quaint." "Quaint, but effective," I replied. "Let's get started." The exercise began, and immediately chaos ensued. The humans were used to structured combat, while the Varlix preferred a more fluid approach, darting and weaving like shadows. It was like watching a rugby match between a team of chess players and a swarm of caffeinated bees. "Move your butts, people," I yelled, trying to herd my team into some semblance of order. Kly'va, on the other hand, seemed to be gliding effortlessly through the chaos, her team following her lead with an almost eerie precision. "Show-offs," I muttered under my breath. Despite the initial mess, the teams began to find their rhythm. The humans adapted to the Varlix's unpredictability, and the Varlix started to appreciate the humans' discipline. By the end of the exercise, we'd managed to capture the flag, and not kill each other in the process. Progress. The mess hall was a loud, bustling place, filled with the sound of clinking utensils and the chatter of multiple languages. I sat down with my tray, eyeing the unidentifiable green mush on my plate with suspicion. "What is this?" I asked, poking it with my fork. "Varlix stew," Kly'va replied, sitting across from me with her own tray. "It's a delicacy." "Right, delicacy," I echoed, taking a cautious bite. It wasn't as bad as it looked, kind of like spicy spinach. "Not bad." Kly'va laughed, a musical sound that made a few heads turn. "You humans and your food aversions. You'd think we were trying to poison you." Wouldn't be the first time, I joked, but there was an edge of truth to it. Trust was still a work in progress. As we ate, we talked strategy. The Drak'vok were relentless, and we needed a plan that could exploit their weaknesses. Kly'va suggested a series of hit-and-run attacks, using the Varlix's agility to harass the enemy and draw them into traps. "I like it," I said, nodding. "But we'll need to coordinate closely. Communication is key." "Agreed," Kly'va said. "And I believe we can do it. We've come this far, haven't we?" I smiled. "Yeah, we have. Let's just hope we can keep it up." The war room was a hive of activity, with holographic displays and tactical maps spread out on every available surface. I stood at the center, surrounded by a mix of human and alien officers. "Our scouts have confirmed the Drak'vok fleet is massing near the Thalios sector," I said, pointing to a glowing red dot on the map. "This is where we'll make our stand." Kly'va stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "We'll divide our forces into 3 groups. The first will launch a frontal assault, drawing their main fleet's attention. The second will flank them from the left, hitting their supply lines. The third group, led by Reed and myself, will be the hammer, striking them from behind." There were murmurs of agreement, and I could see the determination in everyone's eyes. This was it, the moment of truth. Remember, I said, my voice steady. We're fighting for our homes, our families, and our future. Let's give these Drak'vok a fight they'll never forget. Space battles were never as glamorous as they looked in the movies. It was a mess of explosions, debris, and the constant fear of being vaporized. But there was also an undeniable thrill to it. Our fleet surged forward, laser cannons blazing. The Drak'vok met us head-on, their ships swarming like angry wasps. The initial clash was brutal, with ships on both sides taking heavy damage. "Stay focused!" I shouted over the comms, maneuvering my ship to avoid a barrage of enemy fire. Kira's voice crackled through the headset. "Group 2, commence flanking maneuver." The second group moved in, striking the Drak'vok supply ships and causing chaos in their ranks. The enemy was starting to falter, their formation breaking apart. "Now!" I yelled. "All units attack!" Our combined forces hit the Drak'vok from all sides, overwhelming them with sheer determination and firepower. The tide of the battle turned in our favor, and the enemy fleet began to retreat. "We did it," I breathed, hardly daring to believe it. "We actually did it." Kira's laughter echoed through the comms. "Victory is sweet, my friend, but the war is not over yet." The aftermath of the battle was a sobering sight. Wreckage drifted through space, a grim reminder of the cost of victory. We docked our ships and headed to the med bay, where the wounded were being treated. "How bad is it?" I asked one of the medics, a grizzled veteran with a missing arm. "Could be worse," he replied, "but we've lost a lot of good people today." I nodded, feeling the weight of those losses. War was never clean, never easy. But we had to keep going. Kira approached, her expression somber. "Our forces are regrouping. The Drak'vok will likely retaliate soon." "Let them come," I said, my resolve hardening. "We'll be ready." Despite the lingering tension, there was a sense of triumph in the air. We gathered in the main hall for a much-needed celebration. The humans brought out their best booze, while the aliens contributed their own exotic beverages. "To victory!" I shouted, raising my glass. "To unity!" Kira added, her eyes sparkling. We drank, laughed, and shared stories of the battle. It was a rare moment of camaraderie, a brief respite from the constant threat of war. "Hey, Reed," a fellow human called out. "Think we'll ever get used to fighting alongside aliens?" I grinned. "If we can get used to Varlix stew, we can get used to anything." Kira elbowed me playfully. "Careful, or I'll make sure that's all you eat from now on." I laughed, feeling a genuine sense of hope for the first time in weeks. We had a long road ahead, but at least we weren't walking it alone. The peace was shattered the next morning when alarms blared throughout the base. I jumped out of bed, grabbing my gear and sprinting to the command center. "Report!" I barked as I entered, finding the place in a state of controlled chaos. "Drak'vok strike force," a tech replied, his face pale. "They've breached our outer defenses." "Damn it," I muttered, pulling up the tactical map. "What's their target?" "It looks like they're heading for the power core," Kira said, joining me. "If they take that out, we're done." "We won't let that happen," I said firmly. "Let's move." We gathered a team and raced through the corridors, the sound of distant explosions echoing around us. We reached the power core just in time to see a squad of Drak'vok soldiers trying to breach the door. "Take them down!" I shouted, opening fire. The battle was intense, but we fought with everything we had. Kira was a blur of motion beside me, her agility and precision unmatched. Together we managed to repel the attackers, but it was a close call. "That was too close," I said, panting. Kira nodded. "They're getting desperate. We need to end this. And soon." We regrouped in the war room, the atmosphere tense but determined. The Drak'vok were throwing everything they had at us, and it was time to strike back. "We've identified their command ship," I said, pointing to the map. "If we take it out, we can cripple their entire operation." "It's a risky move," Kira said, her expression thoughtful. "But it might be our best shot." "Agreed," I said. "We'll form a strike team and hit them hard and fast, no room for error." We assembled our team, a mix of humans and aliens who had proven themselves in battle. As we prepared for the mission, there was a sense of finality in the air. This was it. the moment that would decide our fate. We launched our assault under the cover of darkness, our ships streaking towards the Drak'vok command vessel. The enemy's defenses were formidable, but we were determined.
"Focus fire on their turrets," I ordered, weaving through a barrage of enemy fire.
Our ships engaged the Drak'vok in a furious dogfight, lasers lighting up the void. We took heavy losses, but managed to breach the enemy's defenses and land on their command ship. "Move out!" I shouted, leading the charge through the corridors. The interior of the ship was a labyrinth of metal and shadows, with Drak'vok soldiers lurking around every corner. We fought our way through, determined to reach the command center. "Keep pushing," Kira urged, her voice unwavering. Finally, we burst into the command center, taking the Drak'vok leaders by surprise. The battle was fierce, but our combined strength proved too much for them. We secured the command center and planted charges on the ship's core. "Let's get out of here," I yelled as the timers counted down. We made a desperate dash for our ships, the explosions rocking the vessel behind us. As we launched into space, the Drak'vok command ship detonated in a brilliant flash of light. "We did it," Kira said, a note of awe in her voice. "Yeah," I replied, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. "We really did." The destruction of the Drak'vok command ship was a turning point in the war. With their leadership in disarray, the enemy's attacks became less coordinated and more sporadic. We were finally able to push them back, reclaiming lost territory and securing our defenses. In the days that followed, there was a sense of cautious optimism among our ranks. We had faced a common enemy and emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. I stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Kira joined me, her presence a comforting one. "Thinking about the future?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied. "We've come a long way, but there's still a lot of work to be done." "True," she said. "But if we've learned anything from this, it's that we're stronger together." I nodded. Unity is our greatest weapon. As we stood there watching the stars, I couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. We had faced the darkness and found a way to shine. And as long as we stood together, there was nothing we couldn't overcome. The war against the Drak'vok was officially declared over a month later. With their leadership shattered and their forces in disarray, the remaining Drak'vok were no longer a threat. It was a hard-won victory, but it was finally ours. We held a ceremony to commemorate the end of the war and honor those who had fought and fallen. It was a somber but hopeful occasion, filled with speeches and tributes. Kira and I stood side by side, representing the unity that had brought us through the darkest times. As we looked out at the gathered crowd, a sense of pride filled my chest. "Here's to the future," I said, raising a glass. "To a future built on unity and trust," Kira agreed, clinking her glass against mine. As the ceremony continued, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement for what lay ahead. We had faced a formidable enemy and emerged stronger for it. The bonds we had forged in the heat of battle would continue to guide us as we rebuilt and looked towards the stars. In the end, it wasn't just about winning a war. It was about finding a way to coexist, to embrace our differences, and to build a future where all species could thrive. And with allies like Kira by my side, I knew we could achieve anything. The stars stretched out before us, filled with endless possibilities. And as we set out on this new journey, I felt a sense of hope and determination. We had proven that unity was our greatest strength, and with it, we could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Here's to the future, one filled with hope, unity, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.